Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve skill-based matchmaking. The social features in Enlisted are pretty lackluster, so I'm sure the majority of you guys play this game alone more often than not. That said, I did want to make a video focusing on how to maximize your performance as a solo queue player in Enlisted, as I myself also play this game alone 99% of the time due to the bad social features. And when you get into Enlisted for the first time, and even as you move up the BRs, honestly, some of you may find it difficult to string together a bunch of wins back to back when you play alone due to either your performance as an inexperienced player, or maybe it's because of your team's performance as you attempt to stuff them all into your duffel bag and carry them to victory. To mitigate the feelings of hopelessness that can easily be brought on by 2 or more losses in a row, I wanted to provide some useful tips that I have found to keep my win percentage close to around 75%, give or take, playing alone for the most part. At tip number 1, I'm going to start off with the most basic, but I find it to be the most important tip as well, and that's going to be to add an engineer to all of your squads pretty much every opportunity that you get. 1 is okay, 2 is great. This is pendant on whether you want to also focus on taking out tanks as well, but the reason I say to add an NG to all of your squads, if not opting to use the engineer squad outright, is because as a solo queue player you constantly have to focus on the 2 main things that affect winning. One of them having more bodies on and around the objective than the enemy team. Obviously, when you have an engineer available in all of your squads, then you're always going to have the ability to pull up a rally point, which is one of the main tools that can pretty much cause your team to win a game. I personally don't think you necessarily have to bring an entire engineer squad into the battlefield unless your playstyle involves building as much as possible outside of rally points. And the reason I say that is because I am also a big fan and a big proponent of using the armored personnel carrier vehicle squads that also have the ability to put more troops on the field. So as you can see, infantry squads and almost all my vehicle squads can contribute to one of the main aspects that impact winning. Tip number 2 is going to be to make your soldiers as self-sufficient as possible. One of the things you'll notice in many of my gameplays is that I try to go on very long kill streaks with each of my soldiers individually as often as possible to maximize efficiency in killing the enemy team, as that is the other main component of winning a game in Enlisted. And unfortunately, it's not the golden rule, because I'm sure some of you in the audience can attest to this, where you have had monster games kill wise and somehow some way still ended up losing. But typically 7 times out of 10, I would say the team with the players that are better at killing will usually win, as long as they make a equal concerted effort to also play the objective. So you yourself, how do you maximize your potential to get all the kills you can as a solo queue player? Well, this is going to vary for each person, but I would say for whatever squad you use for mowing down other squads, whether that be machine gunners or assaulters, or honestly any soldier that has a really good gun, he should have a large ammo pack attached to him. This will ensure that he remains in the fight as long as possible and racks up as many kills as possible before having to switch to your previously mentioned engineer, or worse yet, you end up having to rely on a friendly random to make an ammo box for you, which we all know that's usually not going to happen. Tip number 3 for all my solo queue players out there is going to be to diversify your squads as much as possible so that you are never in a situation that you cannot deal with. Along with engineers, a lot of my squads will typically feature an anti-tank gunner as well, which goes back to what I was saying earlier in the video, how it's okay to bring 1 engineer sometimes instead of bringing 2 just because you saw the opportunity to do so. Reason being, suppose there is a tank that's just not an explosive pack throwing range. Instead of going on a suicide mission with a plethora of your soldiers, you can kind of just swap to your anti-tank guy as a specialist and deal with that tank from a safer distance, which is much better than taking one of your machine gunners or assaulters or even your riflemen in that squad, who can obviously extend your engagement distances, whereas you normally wouldn't be able to. And yeah, basically just allows you to preserve your squad's life, which again goes back to you having a longer kill streak, which will be better for you overall and worse for the enemy team if you are an effective player. As I think about it a little bit more, I don't think I have ever been in a situation where I needed an entire anti-tank squad, 4 to 6 guys running around with bazookas on their back. Usually one will just get the job done if you can keep them alive, which will lead me into my next point at number 4, which is to choose your specialist squad wisely. Me personally, I'm a big fan of artillery squads as my niche, and if I had to explain my reasoning, I would say it's just because even though artillery and bombing runs have been severely nerfed over the years, it just takes one good volley or one good bombing run to clear an entire point so your team can run in there and take the objective. And it's such a sweet feeling, especially when it's the last point on the game, or even if I'm playing defensively, it's just a good way to hold them off and basically take a huge chunk off of their overall live pool, whatever the case may be. So if you are smart with your artillery and you are a strategist, for lack of better words, then you can obviously make good use of it. But this is just my personal opinion. Obviously this is a flex slot, so I do want to mention some other squads that I would definitely take a look at. If I weren't using artillery, I would definitely recommend using airborne or paratroopers, as they basically get the ability to spawn anywhere on the map, which gives you an opportunity to get up a really cheeky rally point in places that the enemy would not expect, especially if it's more or less behind enemy lines. If not paratroopers, then I would definitely recommend using flame troopers as a specialist, because they are just extremely hard to deal with. Even if I'm using my machine gunners or my assaulters, once they just start spraying fire everywhere in any type of close range encounter, I'm more or less kind of SOL as far as like winning that engagement. Occasionally I might edge one out, but pun intended. But usually when I'm going up against flamethrowers, they are very annoying to deal with, and therefore they are obviously very effective if I find them annoying to deal with. So just keep that in mind. As for the other specialist units that I did not mention, I probably didn't because I either find them to be redundant, since you can put them into other squads as a singular unit, or I don't have enough experience with them to say for sure whether they are super effective or not as a solo queue player, and whether they would be worth an entire slot. That said, this all could change in the future as I do make, squad type suggestion videos as far as like revamping and making specialist squads more unique in general, but neither here nor there. The last tip I did want to give for you solo queue players out there is that you have to pay attention to what is going on at any given moment in a match if you want to win as often as possible. Basically what I mean by that is that you have to fill in gaps wherever you see fit. I say that because obviously everything every player does in a given match in Enlisted has an impact on whether your team ends up winning or losing. Some bigger, some smaller, obviously dependent on where you are on the leaderboard. But if you as a solo player are not making a conscientious effort to take every opportunity you can to give your team the best chance to win, then you only have no one to blame but yourself for your win ratio at the end of the day, for the most part. I know some teammates are just like, why are you even playing this game? But just try to focus on yourself for the most part is basically what I'm getting at. And what I mean by that, to explain of course some more, is let's say you're playing as an engineer. You should definitely every now and then take out your hammer and glance at the map, because when you have your hammer out, it will show you exactly where all the friendly rally points on the map are. And then of course if you don't see any, then honestly, even without looking at the map, you should know to put up a rally point every chance you get anyways. But let's say you see that your team has 3 on the left hand side of the map. You obviously should take that information, absorb that, run to the right side or basically the opposite flank and get up a rally point over there, because attacking from multiple angles will increase your chances of taking the objective, which leads to you getting a win. You see how all these things kind of go hand in hand? To give you an example of a solo queue player being vigilant from a defensive perspective, let's say you see your entire team is sitting on the point and nobody is building barbed wire or fortifying or machine gun nest or anything of that nature. That is obviously a niche responsibility that could be befall to you. Or let's say you don't see any of your teammates pushing up to meet the enemy halfway or figure out where the enemy rally points are so your team can stop being flanked. again, a very important responsibility that could be, entrusted to you as a solo queue player, and then it can benefit your entire team in the long run. Going even further, let's say you're the guy that carries all the anti-tank mines and you actually put those down on the main road. Every time an enemy tank rolls up, they get blown up and don't even understand what happened. Again, one, that's an easy 300, 400 points right there. And two, it stops your team from being shredded by enemy tanks, which is obviously very detrimental considering how effective they are, or I guess how effective the driver is. It depends. But neither here nor there. All of these things are just being proactive, and you can see how it benefits your team in the long run. And just being vigilant, paying attention to what's going on, can help you get the win more often than not. Last little bonus tip I wanted to throw in there is that whenever you see somebody doing something that is beneficial to the team, or just a good behavior in general, you should always throw out a thanks or a good job. Whenever you do run by, you see somebody building a rally point, making an ammo box, making some barbed wire, anything of that nature, because again, as a solo queue player, and I think you want to try and encourage good behaviors as often as possible, because obviously when you're playing with randoms, randoms are usually the type to sell your games and make you lose. So the more you can compliment somebody when you see them doing something that is actually useful and beneficial, then the more likely they are to continue doing that behavior, which will lead to them carrying that into other games, and then they will probably do the same thing, which will make them, the other randoms I should say, carry that into their next game, and then everybody in the community will become, I guess, more useful and overall, generally speaking. So those are just my general tips I have noticed from playing this game 4 or 5 plus years as a solo queue player. I mean, I play with people here and there, but 99% of the time I'm playing by myself, and I think I bowled pretty well. So that's pretty much what I've been doing and what I've been noticing. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. If you are also a solo queue player, do you feel like there are any general tips that I missed that you would also like to throw in that helps you win most of your games when you're playing by yourself? Neither here nor there. If you have made it thus far, I do appreciate you very much. Don't forget to aim for that like button, shoot that subscribe button as well. Help you find better teammates, improve your skill-based matchmaking, and yeah, hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Black Guy out.